students. Good afternoon, students. How are you? I believe you are all doing well at home. We are doing this in order for you not to forget what you have been taught in school and to also keep you updated and to also be able to finish the scheme as you are at home. You know, we know the situation of things now in the country, but where we cannot just leave it as it is. We have to do something to help ourselves. So as we have taught earlier in the term before the situation that happened, you know, you have been taught some other topics from the beginning of the term. You were taught political development in West Africa. Then you have been taught foreign policies. You have been taught non-alignment policy. You have been taught conflict resolution and some other topics like that. And I think the last topic in the term is supposed to be international organizations. And you know, we have several international organizations. We have Organization of African Unity, we have Commonwealth, we have AU, and the likes of them. We have ECOWAS. So the one we are going to be talking about today is OAU. I believe you are all familiar with OAU. It's one of the international organizations. And OAU is an Organization of African Unity. And then in this lesson, we are going to be talking about the formation of OAU. We are going to be talking about the aims and objectives of OAU. We'll be talking about the achievement of OAU. We'll talk about the organizational structure of OAU. Then we'll also talk about the failure of OAU. As well, we'll also have the benefits, what Nigerians have been able to benefit as a member of OAU. So as we proceed, then first of all, I'd like to talk about the formation of OAU. You know, OAU was formed in the year 1963, May 25 in the year 1963 in Addis Ababa, in Ethiopia. And now when you look at OAU, you know, it's an organization of African states. You know, the member states are states that are already independent. Those are the states that are members of OAU. And you know, being member of OAU, you know, when a country becomes a member of an international organization, it shows that the country is ready to learn from other country. So Nigeria being member of international organization, we have so many members of this international organization. That's OAU. We have 53 member states. Then Nigeria is part of the member states. Now, when you look at the aims and objectives of OAU, number one aim of OAU is to promote the unity and solidarity of all independent African states. The unity and solidarity of all independent African states shows that any member state must have been independent. Do you get it? I believe you understand what I'm saying. So there is no member state that is not yet independent. Member states are already independent. It means they are already able, they have gained independence from colonialism. Do you get? I believe you understand what I'm saying, right? So it's to promote the unity and solidarity of all the independent African states. That's one of the aims and objectives of this organization. And you know, aims and objectives, you understand what aims and objectives mean? Aims and objectives is what they intend to achieve. Do you understand? What does the organization tend to achieve? For you being a member of the organization, what are the things you look out for? So number one is that promoting unity and solidarity of independent African states. Another one is, number two, is to coordinate the efforts to achieve a better life of African states. Coordinate the effort to achieve a better life for African states. You know, there are diverse ways in which you can achieve better life. You know, by learning from those states that are already members. Do you understand? You see the way they do their things, you learn from it, the things you are supposed to know, to remove from your own, for whatever you're already practicing that is not working, and you look at what is working in other states. Do you get? Then you try to make use of the things that are working in other states. The another one is to defend their solidarity, the territorial integrity and independence. You remember there was a time Nigeria was having issue with Cameroon where, no, not with South Africa. They had issue, you know, they were like, it caused a lot of war that Nigeria were being maltreated in that state. But being a member of international organization, the one we call OAU, your integrity, your sovereignty, your territory is protected. At the point, Nigeria was also having disputes between Nigeria and Cameroon. And what was the dispute all about then? It was boundary dispute. This one was trying to claim this particular boundary, and Nigeria was trying to claim their own. You know, when you belong to this organization, these organizations tend to fight for you. You understand? Your integrity and your independence, so that other states will not be able to interfere in your affairs. Another one is to eradicate all forms of colonialism from African states. You know, when you say colonialism, we all know what colonialism is all about. It's not something that you pray for your enemy. People that witnessed the colonialism in Nigeria in those days, they knew what happened. Just like slavery. It's like being enslaved. You are not able to do things on your own. You don't have the right to anything. You are just a slave. So, and this organization is to what? Is to eradicate all forms of colonialism from African states. So that is another aim and objectives of this particular organization. And the last one I'll be talking about there is to promote international cooperation within the framework of the United Nations. You know, cooperation, international cooperation, so that when you are in problem, every other member state can assist you to get out of the situation for any kind of, maybe there is a war, maybe there are some situations that you need some international interference. So being a member of this particular organization will fetch you that kind of opportunity to be able to gain assistance from other member states. Now, having said that, I think we have been able to talk about the objectives, aim and objective. We talk about promoting unity, coordination, to coordinate efforts to achieve a better life, to defend the sovereignty, and at the same time to achieve decolonialism of African states. Now we go into the organizational structure of OAU. You know, when there is an organization, there must be a structure put in place for the organization to follow, for that organization to function perfectly well. Now the OAU, now we have some structure. The number one structure is the organization of the head of state. That is Assembly of Head of State. We also have the Council of Ministers, we have the Secretariat, and the last one there we have the Commission. So we are going to take this one after the other. The number one organ that we're going to be discussing is the Assembly of Heads of State. When you hear Assembly of Heads of State, it means that every member state have their head. You understand? Be it the president of each state or head of state, whosoever is the head of every member state are the ones that belong to this particular organ. So like Nigeria being a member of OAU, the president of Nigeria is part of head of state. Ghana being part of a member of OAU, the president of Ghana is part of the Assembly of Head of State. And every other member state are members of the Assembly of Head of State. And what do? The matter of common interest are discussed by this general, are discussed by these particular people. That everything that has to do with the affairs of every state that are member are discussed in this particular group. Another one is the Council of Ministers. Every foreign ministers from every member state are members of this Council of Ministers. Every member state that has minister for foreign affairs, all their minister for foreign affairs of every member state are among the Council of Ministers. What do? They prepare agenda for conference for this particular organization. They prepare agenda for conference. You know, agenda, they will list what is to be discussed at every conference. That is the Council of Ministers. Another one, they implement the decision of the Assembly. Implementation. You know, we have organs of government. You have the executive, you have the judiciary, you have the legislature. You remember what does the legislature? They are the one that make law, right? What does the judiciary do? They are the one that interpret the law. What does the executive do? They are the one that they make policy. But this particular one is they take decision for the assembly. They make sure they implement the decision for the Assembly. So now we have another third organ. You know, I've talked about the Assembly of Head of State. I've talked about the Council of Ministers. I've talked about, and the next one we're going to be discussing, that's the number 3 of it, is the Secretariat. Secretariat. When you say, like, working as a civil servant in the Federal Ministry of Education, we have our Secretariat. Our Secretariat is the headquarters. And at that headquarters, you are you can see the secretary there, you can see the HR there, and the likes of them. Every, you know, this is what we call division of labor. You know, every individual have their functions to perform. Now the secretary, the secretariat, the general department undertake correspondence with the member of state and keep them updated on latest developments. What they do what? They keep every member of state updated with every latest development. If there's a meeting that is to take place, is the secretariat that will take note of the key points that happens in the meeting. And what do? They make sure that every key point that has been noted is also being they make sure that they inform every member state of every key point that has been noted in the meeting. Then another one is that they keep them updated on every latest. If there's any new thing, they make sure that every member state are aware of it. Nobody is left out. And then in this secretariat we have Secretary General and we have Assistant Secretary General. And the last one there among the organs is the commission. And what do? This commission makes sure that peace and unity are maintained among the member states. They make sure that if there is any dispute, the dispute are settled amicably, negotiation and all that. They don't settle dispute with dispute. They make sure that if there is any member state that is undergoing any kind of issue, any kind of problem, any kind of dispute, any kind of war, they interfere. How do they do it? They go through dialogue and negotiation, and they're making sure that peace and unity are maintained. Having said that, let's just go back to the way we started. We started with the formation. We talked about the aims and objectives, and we have been able to also talk about the organizational structure of the OAU. That's Organization of African Unity. Now, what has this organization been able to achieve? Is it that they just formed it and there was no achievement? Was it that there was nothing they did? There was no record? There was nothing? So we want to look into it and see, okay, if there were achievement, if there were anything they were able to achieve at the end of the day. Number one, it starts as a forum for discussing African and world affairs. African and world affairs. If there are meetings, if they are to schedule a conference, if there are meetings, what they discuss there, they discuss about the African, they discuss about world affairs. What is happening in the world? What is happening to African states? Is there any African state that need intervention? Is there anywhere where there is need to aid? Is there any country that needs support? This will be discussed in the conference. Another one, it has encouraged regional economic and social cooperation. Regional economic and social cooperation. Countries are able to, they trade within themselves. You are able to buy, from other country. The other country is able to buy from you. You do import and exporting. There's import and exportation. You export, and then you import from them. They export through being member of this particular organization. It has given aid to Africans struggling to free themselves from colonialism. So when you have seen other countries gaining independence, you see what they enjoy for being independent as a country. You know that you now get to know that, okay, being in slavery is not a good thing. Then when you see other countries that are already enjoying from independence, this motivates other countries to also gain independence. It motivates other countries. It serves as motivation for other countries to gain independence. So that's one of the achievements of an OAU. Another one is that it succeeded in promoting unity among member states. I don't think you have even heard of a state There are members fighting themselves. Even if such case occurs, what do? They make sure they call them to settle the dispute amicably without it leading to war. Now, Nigeria as a member of Organization of African Unity, what has Nigeria gained for being member? What have it gained in the past? Number one thing we have gained is that they have tried to settle crisis in Nigeria, especially during the time of civil war. They intervened and made sure that the war was the war ended. And Nigeria also benefited from African Development Bank. They were able to get financial aid when they needed it for being member of it. If you are not member of the Organization of African Unity as a state, you cannot benefit from this African Development Bank. And another one, the last one I'll be discussing there is like Nigeria has maintained a unified front through OAU, united front through OAU. Due to that, there was a time, even up to now, they are still saying, some people are still clamoring for division in the country. But OAU is not in support of it. They are saying, okay, Nigeria, they are encouraging us not to divide, because when we are divided, we cannot stand. But in unity, we stand and we progress by being united. The last thing we'll be discussing in this topic is the failure of OAU. What was their failure? What is the shortcoming? What is the problem? Failure, shortcoming, problems. What are the criticism of OAU? Number one criticism is non-cooperation of member states. Non-cooperation. When member states are beginning to do things outside what they have been told to do in the organization, when you begin to do things on your own, the organization have their rules and regulations that you must follow for being a member. And when all these member states are beginning to go against the rules and regulations or policy that have been put in place by the organization, this bring about problem to the organization. Another one is frequent military coup. And the part there were military coup. We could remember those periods where we had military coup in Nigeria. We knew that some of the leaders, Bwari and the likes of them, majority of them died during the period. So the military coup is a problem to the peace of OAU. And the last one is economic dependency of some African states. Some states are developed, they call themselves to be independent, but they are still dependent on other states for survival. They cannot stand on their own, and this is really causing problem. When you have a state that is always seeking for help, we don't want to go into what happened between Trump and Nigeria. We don't want to go into that. But the problem is when a state is developed and a state says they are independent, but they are not independent indeed. They seek for help every now and then. They refuse to grow. That is the problem, the last problem I'm going to be discussing under OAU. I think I've been able to teach you something today. When we look, if you have to go back to the first thing I taught you in this lesson, we have been able to learn the formation of OAU, the year it was formed, that's May 25, 1963. We have talked about the aims and achievements of OAU. We have been able to talk about the organizational structure of OAU. We talked about the achievements of OAU. We talked about what Nigeria tends to gain from being members of OAU. And the last one we discussed here is the failure of OAU. Please read your books. So we'll see again when we resume. Thank you.